You know, when you watch a master illusionist perform, like a really good sleight of hand, your eyes are almost entirely glued to the movement.
Oh, absolutely. It's classic misdirection. You just become completely captivated by that continuous feed of visual data they're giving you.
Right, you're watching the flourish, the waving hands, the constant fluid motion. But the actual magic, that defining moment where the coin disappears or the card completely changes suit, that happens in the fraction of a second where the movement just stops.
Yeah, it happens in the blind spot,
Exactly.
in the
The
pause.
space where you aren't looking, like the total absence of action.
And usually when we think about our relationships and our deep connections, we tend to focus entirely on the flourish.
Right, the constant motion.
Yeah, the being there, the showing up, the endless stream of text messages, shared lunches, just constant proximity. But what if the actual magic of a deep connection, like that magnetic pull of true desire, doesn't happen when you are standing right there in the room, but exactly when you step out of it?
Which is a pretty wild paradox to think about. It really is. And welcome to today's deep dive. Today we're looking at a short but incredibly dense piece of writing that you, our listener, sent in. And it argues that the absolute fastest way to be missed is simply to be gone.
Yeah, the piece you sent us is an excerpt from a work called The Magnetic Weight of Silence, specifically a section titled The Power of Absence.
And since this text is so brief, our mission today is to really slow down and parse the deep psychological mechanics of exactly why and how distance creates desire. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, to really understand the mechanics here, we first have to establish boundaries around what absence actually means in this context.
Right, because it's not just running away.
Exactly. The author is very careful to define the parameters before diving into the psychology of it all. We are not talking about disappearing into the night or ghosting someone.
Yeah, the qualifiers here are crucial. This absence is not, quote, in a dramatic way, and it is not, quote, to prove a point. It is simply a way that creates space. But, I mean, that seems like a very difficult needle to thread in real life. If I withdraw from a relationship, even temporarily, I feel like the default assumption is usually that I'm upset or I'm trying to elicit some sort of reaction.
What's fascinating here is the deliberate removal of ego from the equation. That is the dividing line between healthy space and toxic withdrawal.
Toxic withdrawal being like the silent treatment.
Yeah, exactly. When someone uses the silent treatment, for example, that is a highly dramatic, totally ego-driven form of absence. They are withdrawing specifically to punish the other person.
Right, to prove a point or to force the other person to chase them.
Right. It is fundamentally a manipulation tactic.
It's loud. Even though they aren't speaking, the absence is deafening. Like if someone storms out of a room and slams the door, they haven't actually created any space.
No, not at all.
They've just filled the room with the echoing sound of their anger. They're still demanding all of your attention just from the other side of a closed door.
That is a great way to put it. Because when you withdraw to prove a point, you're still trying to control the other person's emotional state.
You're emotionally micromanaging them.
Yes.
Mm.
You're sitting there checking your phone, waiting to see if they notice that you left. The kind of absence being advocated here in the text must be neutral.
Unburdened by an agenda.
Exactly. True space is a relinquishing of control. You are allowing the other person the absolute freedom to exist without your immediate looming influence.
I try to visualize this like the negative space in a piece of art, or even, the silence between musical notes.
Oh, I like that.
Because if you listen to a piece of music and it's just a solid, unbroken wall of constant blaring sound, it ceases to be a song.
Right, it's just noise at that point.
Yeah, it becomes totally overwhelming. The pauses, the rests, the exact moments where the musician actively stops playing, those are what give the notes meaning.
Yeah, the pauses are what organize the sound into an actual melody.
Exactly.
Because without the rest, there is no rhythm. And the psychological equivalent of that constant, unbroken sound is habituation.
Habituation. Break that down for us.
Well, when you are constantly present in someone's life, they habituate to you. You essentially become part of the background furniture.
Like wallpaper.
Right. The human brain is incredibly efficient, so it stops processing things that are just always there.
Oh, like how we stop noticing the hum of the refrigerator until the motor actually shuts off?
Yes, that exact feeling. By stepping back, by introducing that silent rest into the music of the relationship, you force the other person's brain to actually process your existence again.
Which naturally moves us into the next phase of this dynamic.
Yeah.
Because empty space doesn't just sit there.
No, it doesn't.
Nature abhors a vacuum, and apparently so does the human mind.
Definitely.
The excerpt argues that the space you leave behind is almost immediately filled by the other person's mind. The phrasing used is, quote, because when you're always there, there's nothing left to imagine.
And that really gets to the biological root of desire itself. Desire requires a gap. It requires a deficit.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Hmm.
There's a literal, mechanical relationship being established here between data and desire.
Yeah, an inverse relationship.
Right. If you provide constant presence to someone, you are providing them with total, uninterrupted data. You are a known quantity at all times.
And if I have all the data, there is absolutely zero room for my imagination to operate.
Exactly, because think about the definition of desire itself. You cannot reach for something that is already resting in your hand.
Right. If you hold it, it's possession. Desire is the reach.
Yes, the reach.
And human beings are, at our core, natural storytellers and pattern matchers. Our brains are biologically wired to recognize patterns and fill in missing information.
It's essentially a survival mechanism, right?
Exactly. When we encounter an information gap, it feels like a cognitive itch that we are just compelled to scratch.
So when you're constantly present, you're essentially doing all the storytelling for the other person.
Yeah, you're handing them the beginning, middle, and end of every single sentence.
They don't have to work for it at all.
Right. But when you deny them that constant access, when you introduce that neutral silence and distance we were talking about, their brain suddenly encounters an information gap.
And their cognitive machinery kicks into gear to fill that gap.
Yes, they start projecting, they start wondering, they start trying to put the puzzle pieces together.
And that mental effort, like that cognitive energy they're forced to expend, trying to place you in the world, that is the literal engine of desire.
You are forcing their mind to actively conjure you up.
The imagination engine. I love that. But what does that actually sound like in someone's head? The author doesn't just leave this as an abstract concept. We actually get a map of this imagination engine running in real time.
Yeah, it breaks down into 3 specific, escalating questions that the silence forces the other person to ask.
Right. So first, where are they? Second, what are they doing? And third, why do I miss them?
It's a very deliberate sequence, moving from external observation to internal realization.
So I actually want to push back on how these are grouped for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because reading through this, I don't really think these 3 questions belong in the same category at all. The first 2, where are they and what are they doing, those just feel like basic external data requests.
Sure.
Like my brain notices you are missing from my immediate environment, and it wants a GPS update. It wants to solve the immediate puzzle.
Right, it's logistical.
Exactly. But that third question, why do I miss them? That feels like a trap door.
A trapdoor. Explain what you mean by a trapdoor.
Well, to answer where are they, I am thinking strictly about you. I am tracking your physical location. But to answer why do I miss them, I have to stop thinking about you entirely.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I have to start analyzing my own internal feelings. I have to look inward. The nature of the inquiry fundamentally changes from observation to introspection.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that trapdoor you were describing is actually the absolute pivot point of this entire philosophy. Yeah, you're completely right that it is a fundamental shift. When someone is forced to ask, why do I miss them? The absence has successfully transformed the missing person from a physical entity out in the world into a psychological mirror for the person left behind.
A psychological mirror. Break that down for me.
Well, think about the internal inventory you have to take to answer that question. You aren't just listing the other person's traits anymore.
Right.
You are inventorying your own life without them in it. You start to realize, oh, I miss how safe I feel when they're around, or I miss how they ground me when I am anxious.
You're suddenly forced to confront the structural load that this person carries in your daily life.
Structural load, like architecture.
Exactly like architecture. Imagine a heavy roof supported by a series of pillars. As long as the pillar is there, holding up the roof, you take the stability of the building completely for granted.
Oh, totally. You never think about the engineering, you just live in the house.
Right. But the second that pillar is temporarily removed, and the roof groans just a little bit and the walls shift, you suddenly realize the immense weight that pillar was supporting.
You realize your complete reliance on it.
Yeah. You can only realize the weight of that structural load when the pillar actually steps away.
That makes total sense. The absence forces the realization of value.
Because if the pillar never moves, I never have to acknowledge how much I actually need it.
And this internal reflection, this sudden confrontation with the other person's value, leads directly to the ultimate transformation described in the text.
Which is?
It is the shift from being a physical body occupying a room to becoming an emotional concept occupying a mind.
Wow. The excerpt gets incredibly poetic here, but there is a hard psychological truth underneath it. The author writes, quote, "And in that absence, you become more than just a person. You become a feeling, a memory, a question, quote, a presence that lingers even when you're not there." And it concludes with this bold thesis statement, quote, "You're not desired for how often you show up. You're desired for how deeply you're felt when you don't."
It is a striking assertion because it fundamentally challenges the modern metric for a successful relationship.
How so?
Well, we tend to measure our impact on others by physical proximity. We look at the hours logged in the same room. We look at the frequency of our interactions.
Like we're punching a time card.
Exactly. The text argues that this is fundamentally flawed. True impact is measured by the emotional resonance we leave behind in the empty space.
So what does this all mean? How do we synthesize physical proximity versus emotional resonance? It actually reminds me of the mechanics of striking a really large, heavy brass bell.
Okay, I'm tracking.
The physical strike, the moment the mallet actually hits the metal, that is your physical presence. It is a sudden, immediate transfer of energy. And honestly, the initial strike can be a little chaotic.
Yeah, it's loud, it's abrupt.
Right. It is an event, it happens, and then it is over.
Just a moment in time.
Exactly. But the reverberating sound, that deep, humming vibration that you can literally feel in your chest long after the mallet is pulled away, that pure, clear tone that fills the entire room, that only happens after the strike is complete.
Right.
That lingering presence only happens when the air is clear. The bell cannot ring if you just keep pressing the mallet against the metal.
Let's push that analogy even further. Because if you keep the mallet pressed firmly against the bell, you don't just delay the sound.
Right.
You actively kill the vibration. You deaden it completely. The bell cannot resonate under constant pressure.
That's so true.
Constant presence is keeping the mallet pressed against the bell. You have to have the discipline to pull it away to let the connection ring out.
Which brings us to the core takeaway that we have curated for you from this incredibly dense excerpt. If you want to cultivate true desire, if you want to build a deep, resonant emotional connection, it requires the profound bravery to step back.
Yeah.
You cannot be deeply felt if you never give the other person the silent, empty space to actually feel you.
It really requires an immense amount of self-assurance to trust that your absence will breed desire rather than abandonment.
Right, because we are so often driven by the fear that if we step away, we will simply be forgotten.
But as the mechanics of the imagination engine prove, the human mind will do the work to keep you present if you just give it the fuel of silence.
It really is a complete paradigm shift. We want to thank you, our listener, for sending this in. It was a remarkably short piece of text, but parsing the psychology behind it opened up a fascinating look at the actual architecture of human connection.
It really did.
It proves that sometimes the most profound insights come from the spaces in between the words.
But before we wrap up today, this concept of distance and desire raises a rather urgent question about the world we currently inhabit.
Oh.
Yeah, I want to leave you with one final challenging thought to mull over as you go about your week.
Lay it on us.
We have established that desire absolutely needs silence. It needs distance, and it needs a lack of data to trigger the imagination.
Right, the deficit we talked about. Yeah.
Exactly. But we are currently living in an era defined by the exact opposite of those conditions.
Oh, wow.
We live in an era of relentless digital presence. We have read receipts that tell us the exact second someone saw our message.
Location sharing.
Real-time location sharing on our phones. We have this cultural expectation of 24/7 immediate availability.
Total unrelenting data.
Exactly.
The mallet is constantly pressed against the bell.
Right. So if desire truly thrives in the blind spots, in the spaces where we are absent, is our modern habit of constant digital availability systematically destroying our capacity to be deeply desired?
That is heavy.
By refusing to step out of the spotlight, by never letting the digital movement stop, are we inadvertently ensuring that we are never truly missed?
No. By never truly being gone, we kill the magic trick entirely.
Something to think about the next time you go to check a read receipt or, send that fifth follow-up text.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.